Chapter 6, I introduced telecommunication and networking. In this chapter, we'll learn e-business and e-commerce that based on telecommunication and networking technologies. E-business and e-commerce are two different concepts. We'll talk about the difference between these two concepts later in the slides. Okay, let's take a look at some opening questions before we go into the details of this chapter. The first opening question is, what was the first e-commerce purchase? It is an order of a large pizza from Pizza Hut in 1994. Or is it a Stanford student illegally purchased marijuana from an MIT student through ARPANET in 1972? Some background information about this choice. ARPANET, or the Advanced Research Projects Agency Network, is an early packet switching network and the first network to implement the TCP/IP protocol suite, which technologies became the technical foundation of the Internet. Okay, let's take a look at the third choice, which is purchase of margarine, eggs, and cornflakes by a lady aged 72 in 1984. So what's your choice for this question? The commonly accepted answer for this question is choice B, which is Stanford student purchased marijuana from an MIT student. Okay, the first choice, this is the first digital order from Pizza Hut. The third choice, this is the pioneer of home shopping. Let's take a look at the other opening questions. The second question is, what was the first item sold on eBay? Is it a broken laser pointer, a fake first edition of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, or a pair of tickets for a concert? What is your answer for this question? Okay, the correct answer is broken laser pointer. It was sold by a computer programmer in 1995, and this programmer is the founder of eBay, and he is the chairman for eBay from 1998 to 2015. Okay, the third question. How long did it take for Amazon to become profitable after being founded? About a month, 3 years, or 9 years? The answer is 9 years. Amazon is being founded in 1994, and it finally turned a profit in 2003. So it is 9 years after being founded and 7 years after Amazon going public. From this question, we can see it may take a long time for e-business companies to become profitable. Here are some other interesting facts about e-commerce. As of the third quarter in 2012, about $4,400 in transactions occurred through PayPal per second. 46% of online shoppers count social media when deciding whether to buy something online. 47% of shoppers say that Facebook has the greatest impact on what they buy. More than 80% of the online population has used the internet to purchase products and services. Online shoppers spend between 1,200 and 1,300 on purchases made over the internet each year. By the way, I spend more than that, much more than that. Most shoppers, at 71%, believe that they can find a better deal when they shop online rather than going on a store. So from these statistics, we can see e-commerce is closely related to every one of us. Okay, next we'll go through each session in the chapters to learn the details of e-commerce. There are 4 sessions in this chapter. I will first talk about the overview of e-business and e-commerce, and then I will talk about 2 main types of e-commerce, which is business to consumer e-commerce and business to business e-commerce. And the last session will talk about a few ethical and legal issues in e-business. In this session, we will talk about the definitions and concepts in e-business and e-commerce, and then we will talk about different types, 6 types of e-commerce. After that, we will talk about major e-commerce mechanisms and e-payment mechanisms. After that, we will discuss benefits and limitations of e-commerce. First, let's take a look at the definition of e-commerce and e-business. E-business is a broader concept than e-commerce. E-commerce is the process of buying, selling, transferring, or exchanging products, services, or information through computer networks, including the internet. E-business includes e-commerce, but also include servicing customers, collaborating with business partners, and performing electronic transactions within an organization. So e-business is a much broader concept than e-commerce, but in this chapter, we mostly focus on e-commerce. First, let's take a look at the degree of digitization in e-commerce. The degree of digitization is the extent to which commerce has been transformed from physical to digital. This transformation from physical to digital that mostly happened in the past 20 years changed the landscape of commerce. There are 2 dimensions in the digitization. A product can be physical or digital, and a delivery agent can be physical or digital as well. Using these 2 dimensions, we can classify the organizations into 3 categories: brick and mortar organizations, clicks and mortar organizations, and virtual organizations. We'll talk about each one of these organizations in details in the following slides. First, let's take a look at brick and mortar organizations, which have storefront. They are purely physical. For example, if you go to a local bookstore to buy a book, you are dealing with brick and mortar because the store and the book are both physical and you go there physically. In contrast, virtual organizations are all digital. For example, if you go to Amazon.com to buy a digital book and it is downloaded to your Kindle, this is purely digital e-commerce because of digital platform, digital product, and digital delivery. Clicks and mortar organizations is partial e-commerce. This is where part of your transaction is digital, but the primary business is carried out in the physical world. For example, buying a t-shirt at Walmart.com or a book from Amazon.com. Okay, here is the exercise for you guys. Please provide an example of each type. Brick and mortar, clicks and mortar, and virtual organizations. There are 6 major types of e-commerce, including business to consumer or B2C, which is the sellers are organizations and the buyers are individuals, such as Walmart.com. We also have business to business or B2B, which is both the sellers and the buyers are organizations. Consumer to consumer or C2C, which both the sellers and the buyers are individuals, such as eBay. Business to employee or B2E, which is an organization uses e-commerce internally to provide information and services to its employees. E-government, which is government provides services to citizens. And mobile commerce or m-commerce, which is electronic commerce in a mobile environment, such as you do business over your smartphone. Okay, now we are move on to take a look at e-commerce mechanisms. Organizations and customers can buy and sell over the internet through these mechanisms. The most widely used mechanisms are listed in the slide. We'll go through each one of them in the following slides. Okay, we'll start from electronic catalog. Electronic catalog is a product database. It is a dictionary and has search capabilities. In addition, it has a presentation function. Electronic catalog is the backbone of most e-commerce websites. For example, if you search on Amazon.com, you will get a host of products that almost directly meet your needs. Next, we'll talk about electronic auction. Electronic auction is a competitive buying and selling process in which prices are determined dynamically by competitive bidding. Auctions can increase revenue for sellers, especially over the internet, because it can broaden the customer base and shorten the cycle time of the auction. On the other hand, electronic auctions can benefit buyers because buyers can bargain for lower prices over the internet. There are 2 types of auctions, the forward auction and the reverse auction. With the forward auction, a seller solicits bids many potential buyers. The highest bidder wins. eBay is a good example here. A reverse auction is different. Now you have only one buyer, usually an organization, wants to purchase a product or a service. So the buyer posts a request for quotation with detailed information about the desired purchase on its website or on a third-party website. Then the suppliers or sellers study the request for quotation and then submit bids electronically. The seller with the lowest price wins the auction. Next, I would like to introduce 3 other e-commerce mechanisms. E-storefront is a website that represents a single store. For example, Zara.com, Loft.com. E-mall is a collection of individual shops under one internet address, such as Nordstrom.com. E-marketplace is a virtual space on the web where many buyers and sellers conduct e-commerce, such as Amazon and eBay. Okay, next we'll move on to electronic payment mechanisms. Electronic payment mechanisms enable buyers to pay for products and services electronically. There are a lot of electronic payment mechanisms, including electronic checks, electronic cards, and digital wallets. I think we are pretty familiar with this topic, so I will not go into details here. Okay, now let's move on to discuss and think about the benefits and limitations of electronic commerce. Let's first take a look at the benefits of e-commerce for organizations. Organizations in the e-commerce environment have much more accessibility in national and international markets. Also, organizations can lower their transaction costs and make transactions more efficient. There are a lot of benefits to individuals as well. For example, it enables us to access a large amount of products and services around the clock. For example, if you want to travel in Seattle, you can search for hotels in that area through either Expedia or Priceline, which will provide you access to a great amount of hotel information. It also benefits society by easily and conveniently deliver information, services, and products to people in cities, rural areas, and developing countries. Okay. Of course, there are some limitations of e-commerce as well. First, we still have not really agreed internationally on accepted security standards. Also, telecommunications bandwidth can be a problem, particularly in developing countries. If you do not have enough bandwidth, you might have very slow transactions. Okay, we've talked about there are 6 major types of e-commerce, including business to consumer, B2C, and business to business. In the next 2 sessions, we will go into details on B2C and B2B. Okay, in this video clip, I provided an overview of e-business and e-commerce. In the next video clip, I will introduce B2B, B2C, and ethical and legal issues in e-commerce.